You see all the van life photos, you watch all the van tours, but do you wonder what this nomadic lifestyle is all about? Are you curious about life on the road? Social media calls it #vanlife. We call it home. I'll ask 10 questions to get you the stories that you want to hear from the people who live, work, and travel and adventure in this nomadic lifestyle. Welcome to Life on the Road. Okay, let's try this again. Welcome to another episode of Life on the Road, where I ask 10 questions to get you the stories that you want to hear from her life on the road. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I love this. We are in beautiful Salida, Colorado. I was passing through, asking for any nomads in the area. Mm-hmm. You obviously reached out, and this has worked out perfectly.
Yeah, here we are.
Here we are. So I love this. Yeah, I've been kind of bouncing around Colorado. You've been in and out of Colorado here for a little bit now, right?
Yeah, Colorado's home for me.
Yeah, right now.
Well,
is it?
Right now, but it's like, it just feels like home. It's like home-based state for me is what it feels like. But again, I've moved around, I've been places.
Yeah, I have a very similar feeling and a very similar thought with Colorado. Like I've been coming here since I was a kid, so like it feels like home. So
exactly, yeah.
I get it. As we always start the show, tell us who you are, how long you've been on the road, where you're from, and you can shamelessly promote yourself at any given time.
Wonderful. Okay. I will very shamelessly promote myself.
I love it.
So my name's Simone. I'm Erdner, and I've been on the road for 1.5 years now, which is wild to think about.
Yeah, right.
Because when I first got on the road, like when I got Big Debbie, I was like, I'm going to buy a van, it'll be an investment, so if I don't like it, then I'll just sell it. Yeah. And then here we are 1.5 years later. Yeah. So obviously I like it.
I love that.
So I've been on the road for 1.5 years. What was the other question?
Where are you from?
Where am I from? Huntsville, Alabama.
No kidding.
Yeah. Okay. So I was there. My mom is born and raised in the suburbs of Huntsville, but she also worked there. Okay. So we stayed. My dad's from upstate New York, so I get a lot of people that tell me that I don't, like when I'm in the South, they're like, you're not from here, because I don't really have that stereotypical like Alabama Southern accent.
You have a little bit of it.
I have a little bit.
I can
when
hear
I
it.
Get tired, it's there. I do use y'all, which
y'all.
I like. It's an inclusive. It's like saying everyone.
Yep. I use y'all all the time. I mean, I lived in the South I went to the University of Georgia.
Oh yeah.
And I lived in Atlanta and South Georgia.
She's from Atlanta.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
I picked her up in Atlanta, this little babe.
Amazing. Yeah. No, I still say y'all. And then when I get around other Southern,
it comes out more.
If
my mom called me right now and we were on speakerphone, I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. I'd be like, bless your heart, lady.
Exactly. Like Jen and Kurt, over like they're both from like Tennessee and like the South, and like soon in their episode, I was like deep Southern, like y'all, like
yes,
we were.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
That's absolutely me for sure. But when I'm in the South, people are like, "Where are you from?" They think I'm Midwest type.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, and I think my dad being from New York, my mom being from the South, I got some weird like middle ground of sorts.
You got like the Northern Virginia.
Yeah. Yes. So I'm like, I don't know where I'm from, but I was born and raised in Northern Alabama, so Huntsville, Alabama.
Okay. Very nice. Yeah. And then shamelessly promote yourself. Where can people find you?
So my name is Simone. I'll get into that story as well. So I actually changed my name this year. My legal name is Sara Erdner. Okay. So I have a book that's out that I wrote and published with Morgan James Publishing, my publisher. Shout out to them. Called Dear Coach, What I Wish I Could Have Told You. Letters from Your Athlete. So it's influenced by my dissertation I wrote during my PhD. Okay. And instead of going the stereotypical, like, let's chalk this, let's cut this dissertation up into a couple different publications for research. Yeah. I decided to take that and put it into like a popular press book form. Okay. So they're letters written by athletes to their coaches on what they wish they could have told their coach but never did.
Oh, hell yes.
Yeah. So, and it took 3 years of my life. It was published in 2021.
Well, one, congratulations.
Thank
Two,
you.
as a former college athlete, that is fucking amazing.
You played football, right?
No.
What did you do?
I played golf.
You were a golfer?
I played golf.
I was
in
watching golf yesterday.
I played golf at Michigan State University.
Did you really? Oh my gosh, I need to give you a copy of my book.
I want a copy of the book.
I've had so many athletes read the book and they're like, oh my gosh, it was so cathartic reading other people's experiences.
We're going to take this conversation way off this channel later because I have a lot to talk to you about. I had no idea that this was happening.
So that's my book, and I do a lot. So last year, the reason why I ended up in Bend is because I was teaching a master class for the United States Center for Coaching Excellence in Spokane, Washington.
Very cool.
So I moseyed my way up to Spokane, went to Mount Shasta for a Good Vibe Collective, and stopped in Bend on the way. That's when I was like, oh, this is a gym. So after Shasta, I went back up to Bend for a couple of months.
Gotcha. Okay, so where can people find the book?
So the book, Amazon, is kind of like...
We'll have all kinds of links in the show notes where you can get the book. And then what's your Instagram? Where can people find you? Yeah, Instagram is at Simone.xxoo, which is where I'm at now. We will place that right here. John, shout out John from Woodstock on Wheels. He loves this. We'll place it right here. Right here, exactly. At the bottom of your screen for $19.99. Yes, exactly. 4 installments. Exactly. All of a sudden, this is an infomercial on QVC. Yeah. Okay. Let's learn about your life on the road. Yeah. Question 1, what was the beginning moment, cause, or inspiration to live your life on the road? So there were two. It was twofold. So the first fold is that I was a very, very high achieving person. I mean, I graduated my PhD at 28. I was writing a book, published it at 31, was working in the professional league as a mental performance consultant. And I remember what sports did you play in college? Did you play sport in college? I did club sports in college. I did triathlons, yeah. But then I broke my foot, transitioned to strength sports, which was where I'm like my bread and butter, and I did strong woman stuff for a while. Okay, cool. Yeah. I did Olympic lifting for a half second. Yes. Yeah, so the clean and jerk and the snatch, we got it. Same. I'm a big lifter. I come from a line of strength athletes. So when I did triathlons, my uncle was like, "What are you doing? That's not our genetic code." I was like, "I know." So then when I transitioned to strength sports, it was like what took me 6 years to achieve in triathlons was like 6 months in strength. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so those were my sports. I was very, very high achieving. And on it, it was the day that I got my book in print in my hand, and I was sobbing. I imagine. Not out of like there was some excitement, but it was out of a like, this book isn't going to hug me back. What if, so I had been... My coping mechanism in the world was achieving things and doing the tap dance, hoping that I would, get the attention or whatever. Yeah. And that was when I was like... Was it one thing where, like, when you finished the book came and it was done and you were like, now what? Yes. Okay. It was the same thing that when I work with Olympic athletes, they deal with. When they get the gold or they get the medal, they go into a deep depression. Okay, we're going to have a lot to talk about. Yes. My sister was an Olympic athlete. Yes. And I work with professional Olympic, college level athletes as a sports, as a mental performance consultant. So, that was the book being published was my gold medal. And I was like, what now? Yeah. And I was exhausted. And I also was like, this book isn't going to hug me back, and it's not going to lull me to sleep, and it's not going to cook me dinner. And I had given so much of my life to, and I think there was goodness in the book. I very much have a social justice, really want to advocate for people. So that was fold 1. Fold 2 is I was living in Alamosa, Colorado, which is extremely rural. It's actually an hour and a half south of here. Okay. I kind of know where it is. Yeah, very 7 mile wide town, 9,000 people. It might be at 10,000 by now, but that's like stretching it and adding some cows into the population count. So it as a young, like 29, 30, 31-year-old living there, single, when the median age is like 60, so here I was having a crisis of this book isn't going to hug me. I'm looking for somebody to hug me. Yeah. And I'm living in a rural town of people I don't want to hug me. So, a dilemma. Yeah, I was a dilemma. A massive dilemma. So that's my twofold answer of why I got on the road. Okay. It was I love my job there as a professor at the university. And I was like, I have to get out of here. Okay. And the only way I kind of knew was let me get into a van. I love my job. I don't want to look for another job. Yeah.
So yeah, I moved into the van as like a...
What was the thing that triggered you to start researching, or like what was the thing that you saw during that moment that was like, oh, this nomadic lifestyle is interesting? Was there something, was it Instagram? Was there some other
No,
like,
it was not.
means?
It was not Instagram, no.
Okay.
It was...
Do you remember what it was?
To be honest with you, I don't remember a moment.
Okay.
I remember just kind of thinking about I was in a type A life of like, go, achieve.
Yeah.
And I was like, we gotta get to a B+ life, right? Like, I'm not saying full type B, but a type B+, which I think I kind of am now.
Just slowing down ever so slightly.
And I had, being here in Colorado, actually it was a Good Vibe Collective event.
Okay.
In Buena Vista.
Chris and Matt.
Yeah. Went up there, and I was living part-time out of my 4Runner at the time.
Okay.
And met them, learned their stories, and just really loved it. It was a very type B energy.
Okay, that makes perfect sense now. Like, if you were living in your 4Runner and you were thinking about van life and you got to Good Vibes, like, that's like legitimately, I think, the perfect introduction to this community.
Oh, absolutely. So I was
like,
there.
It couldn't have gone any better for you.
It was wonderful. Yeah. She was thriving. Yeah. I mean, she's a feral dog, so it's like bringing her back into like where she was born and raised.
Yeah.
So it was a Good Vibe event. So I think that was probably the biggest push, and there was a lot of type B energy going on, and I knew I was at a crossroads of, if I stay down this path of high achievement, I'm going to have a psychotic break. Truly, I will be put into an institution. And I really was thinking, like, how do I want my life to look in the next 5 to 10 years? And it wasn't with book 2 and book 3. So that was when I was like, okay, the van. So Big Deb here is like my spirit wagon. Truly, it has been, this past year and a half has been an absolute soul search of coming home to myself, really, because again, achieving was a coping mechanism. So like, let's put the coping mechanism away, which is like put the alcohol down, put the, put whatever down, let me put my achievements down, stop achieving, only so much as I have to keep my job. Yeah. And like,
start living a little bit.
See what life is like a different way. And it is taken a really weird turn in a healthy way for me.
I imagine. Well, we'll get to that, I'm sure. And, talking about the Good Vibes Collective, it rolls perfectly into question 2. What has been your experience with other nomadic travelers while living your life on the road?
It is the thing that I love so much about the nomadic community. And so many, if people are going to watch this, they're going to be like, yeah, we've talked about this around a fire.
We talk about this, I'm sure, on the show, which is great. This is what I want to hear.
Well, you meet, so again, I am in a particular... The people I was interacting with before Nomad life was other people that were masters, PhDs, conferences. And I love that world. But here and now, I'm sitting around fires with people who are such a diverse set of work and that their views on life and how they operate in the world, people's sexuality,
age ranges.
Age ranges. There's... where they were born and raised. Like, I was born in Alabama in a very religious community. I was raised very religious. I used to be a part of a worship leading team at church. And I don't believe in that anymore. So then I'm meeting so many other people who are like, they're like, we weren't raised religious. And like, when I'm telling them stories, they're just kind of like, what?
Blown away,
Yeah, and so it's been so cool, the diversity of story, I would say. I do think the nomadic community could be better as far as diversity goes.
Sure.
But diversity of life experiences, stories, has been really refreshing. It has been, when I say sandpaper to me, I mean, I had a lot of rough, exclusive edges, implicit biases that they're implicit, so you don't know.
Sure.
That this community has so beautifully been like, let's just smooth those out for you really quickly and help you.
I think that's said very beautifully at the end of the day. Like, that's very well said in a sense that, like, you can come into this community and it's going to open your eyes to so many things.
Yeah.
So many things that you never expected. 1, about yourself, and then 2, about the others that you associate with within the community.
Yeah, and then there's people, another thing I love is you'll be caravanning with people. You're like driving with these people. And the next thing you know, it's like a month in, you're like, how old are you and what do you do? And I'll never forget my friend Jenna, like, shout out Jenna, love you so much. She's living in Bellingham, Washington now.
Nice.
I remember her, she was like, I'm 24, bitch. And I just was like, what? I love you so much. And I'm 33. Like, and there's been people, like, I think was a bus, like Brian, like, what a great human being. Like, the people you meet are so great. And in what other world would I have met these people?
No. And that is the beautiful thing. And I think on the road, like, age is such a, like, random number. And it doesn't matter at all. Like, most of the people don't realize, like, I'm old as dirt. And, like, it's hilarious when people, like, realize my actual age and they're like, holy shit. Like, never imagined that about you. That's what I'm saying.
But what's so cool, so there's a book that Donald Miller wrote. Gosh, and I'm forgetting the name of it, but he talks about a time where he went to this retreat. It was like a month-long retreat, and you're not allowed to tell people your name, your occupation, and what, or any
like
kind
any
kind of like checkbox things.
Yeah.
And you go and you meet these people. At the end of the conference, you can't, if you decide to say, this is who I am and this is what I do. So he did the conference twice. The first time he went, he didn't tell anybody who he was. He didn't say, I'm a prolific author that makes millions of dollars.
Yeah.
The second time he went, he did say, I'm Donald Miller. The moment he revealed who he was, the relationship that he had created changed, because you put people in, like, you're up here.
They start to kind of, like, adjust questions or adjust conversation tone and, like, all
people
of those
start
things.
Thinking, well, I'm not allowed, I shouldn't be associated with you.
Yeah.
And in the nomad community, and I do feel like people have me driving a Sprinter, there is that stereotypical type of, like, maybe they think something about me, but then once we get to know one another, we're hanging out, it's just like...
That thing's the most bougie fucking van on the planet. Like, I am Mr. Fancy Van. I am Mr. Bougie Van. Like, that stereotype comes with me all the time.
But then when people get to know you...
Yeah, exactly.
I always joke, I'm like, listen, I drive a Sprinter, but I have the personality of a ProMaster, okay? So, like, please get to know me. The best compliment...
That actually is hilarious. I will use that going forward. That is very, very
And I feel
funny.
like you have the same vibe.
Yeah.
The best compliment I ever got was from Adventure Bike Mike. Shout out to Mike.
I was just on the phone with him today.
What a wonderful human.
He is awesome.
When he first met me, I'll never forget, it was at Flamingo Stage in Ibex, Utah. My first van gathering ever once I got in Big Deb.
Nice.
And he said, when we first saw this Sprinter coming in, we were like, who the fuck is this Sprinter? And then you came in and he's like, but he was like, you're such a dirtbag. And I was like, oh my God, thank you so much.
That's so fucking awesome.
I was like, that's the best compliment I've ever received in my entire life.
I mean, I get it all the time. Like, when people don't know who I am and, like, or they haven't been kind of, like, told, or, like, a friend of a friend hasn't said anything, they're like, oh my God, who the fuck is this guy? Like, in this crazy van. And, it is what it is. Like, I mean, my story is very different than most. But then again, going back to what you were saying about the nomadic community, I think that's exactly how our community functions. You get through those check boxes that you referred to very quickly, and you get to the real person, and you get to the real stories about who you are.
Absolutely.
And you build those relationships and those friendships so much faster in the nomadic community than you would in any other situation, to where, that professor that was doing these conferences, that's exactly what our community is like. Like, you skip all that bullshit. You don't care about how old they are. You don't care what they do.
You don't care about the CV.
You don't care about, like...
Nobody gives a shit that I wrote a book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we do, which is amazing.
Yeah, but like, not in, like in the nomad community, or in the professor community, or at, like, some universities, it's very much. Like, it's a
must-have.
It is a CV measuring competition.
Yeah.
It is a, like, well, I wrote a book. Well, did you? But you're not... It's a really weird... I think what I love is that... and what's been really healing for me on my, like... I mean, I'm such a mental health advocate. I've been in mental health weekly for almost 10 years now, that you measure people based on, like, a sense of, like, giving, where it's like, like, hey, let's do potluck dinners. What can I provide? Or somebody's like, oh, I don't want to go into town. I got to go get food. And it's like, well, if you don't want to go today, like, I actually have some leftover food.
Yeah.
It's communal. It's a commune. And there is so much research in psychology. There's a book called The Lost Connection by Johann Hari. That is such a beautiful book. They did an investigation on SSRI.
I realize now during this interview, I'm going to leave with like a 10-book reference.
Oh, I'm a professor.
I know. Okay. That's just like in my head.
I'm giving you a syllabus of required reading, okay? Literally. I'll give you the ISBN 13 digit.
I fucking love it.
Yeah,
amazing.
So we'll have a whole roll, like a credit roll at the end.
I think like I'm going to provide like every book that you've referenced in the show notes.
Oh, absolutely.
Like Amazon links
I'm a
for
big
everybody.
reader.
I love that.
So The Lost Connection by Johann Hari, they do an investigation on SSRIs, so antidepressants.
Yeah.
I am definitely a fan of antidepressants. I think they're really great for people.
Yeah.
What they do though is they bring to light how big pharma like pushes antidepressants.
Yeah.
Because likely to the point like too much to where people are like, just take this pill, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
The lost connection is the reason why we're on SSRIs and we're depressed is because we've lost connection with Mother Earth, with humans.
Yeah.
So the prescription, there's doctors now that will prescribe, and there's a lot of research that supports communal living.
Okay.
Like instead of doing an SSRI, before we put you on an SSRI, we're actually going to have you go and do once a week a communal planting where you go plant, at
a local garden or somewhere, like a nursery. Yeah.
For however many months.
Yeah.
And we'll see how you feel after that. So communal living, like living in a commune, right? It has been so healing for me to...
it forces interaction. It forces communication.
It does. And then you're in nature. So there's that. Then you're around a fire and there's a lot of, so it's...
Interesting.
This community, I could go on and on. As you could too.
As I could as well. Yeah. I mean, it's obviously part of the reason why I started the show. It's the reason why I'm still on the road and will continue to be on the road. It's the reason why I've created this new company. Like it's all the things. Yeah. It means so much to me, and I love giving back to it. So it's very awesome. Question 3, what has been your biggest failure and what has been your biggest triumph while living your life on the road?
Gosh. My biggest failure, I'll start there.
Okay.
Because we as humans have a negativity bias in our brains. So we're like, let me talk about everything that's wrong with me first.
Sure.
But I think my biggest failure has been, and we were talking about this before, I've been on the road for 1.5 years. And I'm realizing now through self-reflection that I was letting FOMO get in the way of self-care.
Okay.
So when you're like in these communities and you're caravanning and you're like, oh, we're only going to be together for a week. So like there's karaoke on Thursday. I have to go to it. But like you internally know you're exhausted. So
it's the story of my life.
Yeah. Like the first 1.5 years, it was like so amazing. I had people being like, do you have a job still? Because I was just like, everything on Instagram was like rave clothes and glitter on my face and like having fun with everybody.
Yeah.
Playing shows, doing music, going to these van events. And it was like FOMO was pushing. So it was like fear of missing out because I don't know the next time I'm going to see this person.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you're becoming, you're becoming attached like dysfunctionally to people and ideas and places that you're like, well, and they might even say, they're like, well, I'm leaving next week. And you're like, oh, that's true. They're going to leave. So it was 1.5 years of me having so much fun, but I was also neglecting myself.
Okay.
And I think that when I say it was a failure, it's not a full failure. I got so much blessing out of the 1.5 years, but the failure was lack of balance.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I can't sustain this if I keep doing this.
And I'm going to guess, and the reason why I'm going to guess this is because it's exactly how I wrote this question and why I wrote this question, is that turned into potentially maybe your biggest triumph in terms of like you understanding that and starting to reshape that.
I do think I think that was a catalyst for my biggest triumph is coming home to myself. So, and at the beginning of this, I referenced, so I've changed my name this year.
Yeah.
I wanted to change it when I was 27.
Okay.
And there was a lot of changes I was making at 27, one of which was coming out as not identifying as a Christian anymore, which was a very big deal in my family.
Yep.
And I was like, you know what? I've already I've shattered my worldview and I'm also shattering my family's worldview. So me coming in hot and being like, oh, by the way, I'm also going to change my name was just like, let's take a chill pill for a second. And I think the biggest triumph for me was coming home to myself But I think that's the beauty of, like, my biggest failure was not choosing myself. But even in that chaos of constantly hanging out with people, they helped me grow into who I was. And there was like this, there's a select few people, if y'all watch this, that you know you were there for that moment when we were at Smith Rock in Bend, Oregon. The moment I like became Simone, I will leave out details for, but it was, we were just around a fire kind of talking about what do we regret. And I was like, I've always just, I love Sara. I'm not like changing my name because I'm like, oh, I'm trying to get rid of, but life is fluid. And while my sexuality has stayed as a heterosexual, and a lot of people in this community are like, you're pretty basic and vanilla because you're like, a monogamous hetero. And I've questioned that for myself. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty solid in that. But my fluidity has been my name, like what I want to be called. And maybe that's the psychology of it. I think there's a lot of power in a name.
Okay.
And what people call you.
Sure.
And my biggest triumph, and this coincides with how beautiful this community is, because I needed the community to support me in making that decision.
Yeah.
Because I don't think if I was in the Nomad community, I would ever have changed my name.
Okay.
Because they were so supportive. They were like, we're here for this growth.
Yeah.
Before I even said I wanted to be called Simone, they started calling me it. They were just like, oh, I was like, yeah, I've been thinking about this. And then the next morning I woke up, they were like, good morning, Simone. And I was like, oh God, is this like kind of weird month?
You're like, it's starting.
It's starting. And then I was like, okay, we'll give it a month. We'll wear it out. We'll wear it. We'll see how this costume feels.
Yeah.
And then it was weird when I started being like,
it feels natural.
When they were like, what is your name? I'm like, my name's Simone. I'm like, they're going to know I'm a liar. My name's not Simone.
I love that.
But I think that was my biggest triumph, is me. It was the triumph coinciding with now I'm doing more me time.
Yeah.
And like I'm really proud of myself and the support the community gave me.
Or just like discovering like, and it's not a sense of like, I don't like when people use the term, I'm trying to find myself. That's kind of an odd, I find that to be very weird statement, like the self-discovery thing, and we've talked about it on the show quite a bit, like living in a van, you're going to learn a lot about yourself.
Nobody can tell you what you're going to learn.
No.
Like, guess what? You could move into a van and come out with a completely different name,
Yeah. Or, you may hate it. You may discover that you need that stability and that I live in one location.
And that's what's beautiful about the van, letting you know.
Correct.
Non-negotiable.
It's going to show you the best sides and the darkest sides of not only you, but like your thoughts and the direction you want to go.
Exactly.
Like it's going to show all of that stuff. So I love the fact that like you had this kind of self-discovery moment getting into the rig. It was kind of that moment of like, oh, there's a big shift that needs to take place in my life, and the rig's going to be kind of that catalyst. But then once you got into the van and you got into the community, you're like, oh, maybe there's a little more that I need to do, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a wild ride.
And I wrote the question in a sense of like, the majority of people of how they answered it is like they'll go through their failures and they're like, oh, but really, that's my biggest triumph. And I'm like, that's the reason why I wrote it.
Absolutely. And I can see, people are automatic. I ask people, I say on a scale when I talk to my clients, I'm like, on a scale of 0 to 10, how are you today? With 10 being great, 0 being not great. And they'll say like, oh, I'm a 6 today. And I'll say, tell me more about that 6. And they immediately go to all the reasons why they're not a 10. And I'm like, that's interesting. Negativity bias. Let's learn about it. But why are you a 6 though? There were some good things that happened for you to be a 6. So let's like, it's trying to get the clients to reframe to really, so that's why I was like, oh, let me start with the failure first. But you're right. I think that there's, you're going to stumble when you get into van life. Yeah. It is what it is, yeah.
Well, and we come from, obviously, an athletic background, and I can't wait till the show's over and we could talk more about this in depth. But, like, in the golfing world, like, you cannot have those negative thoughts. Like, it was impossible. Like, the thought of having a negative thought will propel you to do something poorly in that event. And so, like from a early age, from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, like learning that game of golf, it's propelled me in the rest of my life in a sense that like I try and only see the positive side of things. And that will always be my first go-to. And then I'll circle back and be like, oh yeah, these other like negative things happened, but I didn't. Those weren't my first realizations.
Yeah. So, I would love to talk acceptance commitment theory with you.
We're going to talk a lot about it after the show. All right. Question 4. Did you start your life on the road as a single person? What is it like living your life on the road as a single person?
I did start my life as a single person. And kind of a residual effect of me wanting to get out of Alamosa was like, let me get in a van and kind of, I don't want to say it was like the number one thing is like, let me go and find my life partner. But I was like, I'm definitely not going to find my life partner in Alamosa.
Okay.
So
I think it was interesting that was your thought of like, I think I could find my partner on the road.
Well, now that I'm on the road, I'm like, I'm not finding my partner on the road. And I
love that was your initial thought, though, of like, maybe this is possible.
Well, I wasn't thinking, let me get on the road. I'm going to find my partner on the road, like another van person. I was like, I'll just go set up in other cities.
I got you. And
find people that are like, interested in nature in this life.
Gotcha.
And then, I mean, ultimately, my ideal end goal is to... and I mean, if anybody's watching this, if you want to like start dating me after this, let me know. If you have a house, this is what I'm looking for. This all of a sudden turns into my dating profile.
Like a dating profile.
Yeah, so I'm a 33-year-old.
That's awesome.
So my ideal situation would be to set up roots somewhere.
Yeah.
And another reason why I was like, let me go and I think we passively like end up somewhere because it's like, well, I got it. Why did you move here? And it's like, well, I got a job. And I'm like, I want to be more intentional about living where I want to live.
I think that's great.
And so that's why I wanted to travel around, get the energy of places, really like see, does this feel like home to me? Can I set up roots here?
I think, and I'm going to interrupt you real quick because I want you to continue your story, but I think it's a wonderful thing for people that are curious about nomadic life. That might be a really good reason to get into it.
Yeah.
It's just to discover other places that may be better suited for you to live.
For your mental health, for your way of living. Like, honestly, going places, I've been like, I know now I want to live in a place a college, like that has a college town. Because there's a particular energy in a place where there's a college. It's like
and you're a professor. It aligns with you. You're an athlete.
Curiosity is a huge value of mine. So I'm like, okay... universities, there's like a curious spirit there. It usually exudes into the... so those are things I'm learning as I'm traveling places. I started the life out on the road as a single person thinking I would go. And I'm still very hopeful, actually. I know you're out there. I know you're going to be watching this. And you're going to be like, it's me. I'm your person.
I love it.
I'm just joking. No, but I do feel a shift for me. Like I feel like I'm on the verge of making that shift kind of into a life partnership, creating a home base, doing part-time in the van.
That was going to be my next question. Do you see yourself ever stopping, or will nomadic life always be a part of you?
Nomadic life will always be a part of me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
There's where I do think I am craving a little bit more stability. I mean, I've been able to, now that I have my motorcycle, I can set up my van, have a little bit more stability, take the motorcycle into town. I would like to build a home with somebody. And that doesn't, I'm a very non-traditional person. It doesn't have to be the white picket fence, just so you know, it doesn't have to be the white picket fence. I feel like I'm like,
we're going to just add to this dating profile. This is going to be
I'm open to kids, but it's okay if not. I'm just kidding.
I love it.
So I don't know, but I'm just I think I started out being like, let me go out and find my person. And I've become just very, there's a lot of solitude in van life. And so I think the first year and a half, I really fought against wanting to spend time with myself, which is why I sought out people. Yeah. And now I'm like the opposite. I'm like, oh, I love myself so much
that like, be by myself.
I'm just going to camp by myself tonight. No offense, people, but like, I'm just really jiving.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And I've been very open about my struggles this past winter. I built Althea to go be in winter, to ski. Like, that's my passion. And that was my intention with the van. It was like, I want to go from resort to resort and ski.
That's me this winter, by the way.
Yeah, oh yes. And I quickly realized how fucking lonely winter van life was. And I wasn't prepared for it. Yeah. Like, I was mentally not in the right state. There were a lot of things going on in my life in that moment. And it was all like a big swell that hit me at the same time. And I was like, holy shit, like, this is bad. Like, I'm alone, and I don't know what to do. Yeah. I don't know what to think. Shout out Matt from the Good Vibes Collective. Brother, you potentially gave me some options to save me. And, you know, I discovered Vipassana and meditation and all these
things. That's been a huge thing for me. Like at night, I'm like, let me do my dinner.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to where now it's like, it takes a lot. It's just me in meditation at night and just me, like I'm just like, wow, I am so cool. That, like,
it's funny, like, it wasn't even a thing for me. Well, I mean, we can talk for hours about meditation, but like, yeah, I mean, it's been just something that I didn't think I was ready for or expected in van life. And now it becomes a huge topic on this show.
Yeah.
I always express how difficult van life is and how alone you potentially and will be at some point.
Absolutely.
So that's something that, like, again, if you're curious about van life, just know that you're going to come up across this moment where you're like, I'm fucking alone. And I gotta figure this out.
Well,
like,
and that's so another book that we can add to the list. Yes. Their internal family systems therapy is, it's a book called No Bad Parts by Dr. Richard Schwartz. Okay. And so when really a lot of the meditations I'm doing leads into me doing my own therapy, like just self-healing, healing,
sure,
and doing a lot of parts work. And a lot of the reason why people don't like living with themselves or being alone with themselves is because a lot of these different parts of themselves come up, like voices in your head, but those are the reason why they're so loud is because they want to be heard. They just want to be seen. Sure. So a lot of the work I do is just letting myself like clear out my house, if you will.
Yeah.
And allow space for, a major visualization I'll do is where I'll internally clear out my house, and then I will invite a part of myself in, whoever wants to show up.
Okay.
And I'll say, welcome, I cleaned my house for you. It's so good to see you. And maybe it's like disappointment or jealousy or anger or disappointment will walk through the door. And I'll say, come and sit. I have some tea for you.
Interesting.
Let's chat.
Yeah,
and I'm like, do you want to talk?
Yeah.
And sometimes I say no, and I'm like, well, we can just sit here because I love you enough that I want to spend time with you.
Sure.
And the more I do that, the more they quiet themselves because they're like, I just wanted to, the whole reason why
I just wanted to be heard.
I was so loud in your frontal lobe is because I just was trying to get your attention.
Interesting.
So it's been No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz has been a great book that's really kind of carried me through as I've gone into this more solitude space.
Yeah, I mean, I walked away with, the practice of Vipassana and, really I've been kind of up and down with the practice, and been so busy, and sometimes you just can't, or you neglect it and you don't, and then you come back to it. Mm-hmm. But I love the fact that is now a tool in my toolbox that
absolutely.
I have.
Absolutely.
Like, if and when I really need it, I can lean on it, and it's there, which is great. Yeah. It's wonderful. Question number 5. Best place or craziest place you've had sex during your life on the road?
I love that we are going from this deep philosophical, I'm like, by the way,
we're just going to talk about sex now. Yeah, exactly. Let's shift gears from first to fifth.
So the wildest place I've had sex. I think the funnier places has been like middle of the day in a dog park parking lot type of a situation.
Yeah.
But I will just say this,
like that Walmart's or
and you're like any movement in the van's gonna be shaken. So it's just like
it's rocking no matter what.
Yeah. So
I get it.
Yeah, so there's that. But I do think the funny thing about sex on the road, the first when they built the van out, so when Chewy Design Company built the van out, they built it around my keyboard. Yeah. So everything, like, it was like, okay, what is the height of where you're going to be sitting? Okay, well, the bed is actually a little higher than I originally wanted it. So my friends were like, you're going to have to get people to sign a liability waiver when they get in here, because I could just see it now, they're going to get a concussion. And so it's like the next step from consent. It's like, we not just consent to sex, but we like have to sign.
You're going to have to sign a document in order to come have sex in my van.
That lets me know that I'm and Big W am not held liable for if you start bleeding because you hit your head too hard on the ceiling. Because it is like, it is there, yeah. So
I love that. And it's so funny you say that, because shout out Marissa and her episode. She like tells funny stories of, having sex and hitting heads on, counters and edges of cabinets.
It brings a level of levity though to 100%. It, because you all you can do is giggle.
Laugh. All you can do is laugh about it. It's hilarious. Like, I have the same issue. Like, there's people ask me all the time, like, what would you change about Althea? And my answer is typically nothing. But, like, the bed height would be one thing I would change.
Absolutely.
But it was dependent upon my bike height, my handlebar height.
You know what would be really cool in a van is if you have, the people have the elevator vans talking to you all. And I also think, like, you know what? I'm going to say this first. I patent this idea, so if anybody takes this, that you can have, like, a sex option to where it's, like, where you go, you're lower. Like, maybe it's like, hey, I'm about to have sex, so it's going to go lower to give us a little bit more room,
I love it. I mean, I actually, and this was something I just commented on, shout out Rossmönster. Rossmönster, if you're a Rossmönster client or customer and you do bearded 500, you get $500 off your beer or off your build, by the way. Just
okay. Off your beer? I'm like, what kind of beer is
this? Not the beer. Off the build. No, like, I love my rig. People know this. Like, I shout out the floor plan and Rossmönster, from the highest rooftops. But they just built a van that I was like, oh my God, this floor plan is great. And I rarely say that. And I was like, I would maybe copy this floor plan. And it has one of the elevator beds. And I was like, and for me, the garage was way too important a part of the van. Absolutely. And so, like, that took the majority of the space and determined my bed height. So, yeah, I totally get it. But I love the fact that you're handing out waivers.
Oh, yeah, they're literally like, I have contracts for clients. It's like, here's my name, my CMPC number, and then, like, right next to it, I got to make sure I don't mix it up with my, like, mentor clients.
That's awesome.
This is also my contract with my informed consent and confidentiality agreement, and then there's a waiver in there that you have to sign, like, in the likelihood of death,
You hit your head on my cabinet.
Yeah, like, I don't know if you have a pre-existing condition, and then you hit your head on my cabinet, and then you die. So this goes back to my dating profile. Like, we can absolutely get an Airbnb. So please don't think you're going to die.
I'm down for a hotel for one night.
Yeah, absolutely. We can work this out if you're scared. So if I see fear in your eyes, then maybe we shouldn't do it.
Yeah, coming into the van, and you're, like, deathly afraid of getting in my bed.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to look at the bed and be like, I don't know. And I'm like, listen,
It happens.
I pushed the paper over to them. I'm like, read the fine print, please.
And then sign at the bottom.
Yeah, sign in blood. In the blood that you're going to get when you bang your head. So.
Yes. It's going to happen. Yeah. I'm just going to warn you right now.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I fucking love it. It's awesome. Question 6, how do you make money while living your life on the road?
Yeah, so I'm a full-time professor, and then I have 2 part-time, like, adjunct mentoring gigs as a professor at 2 other universities.
What university are you full-time at?
I'm at Adams State University in Alamosa, Colorado.
Okay.
So
that's how you got to Alamosa?
Yeah, that's how I got to Alamosa. I was a tenure-track professor, so for people who don't know what that is, because it's... In academia, they like to act like it's the next best thing since sliced bread to make themselves feel better. Tenure is basically just the next achievement. It's you put 5 years in, you get, job security and a 10K promotion.
Is it legitimately you have to be in one location for 10 years? Is that the...
You would have to be in that same location for at least the 5 years till you get it. But if you're tenure track and you become tenure, you're still you're at that location until you leave and get another job.
Okay, fair.
So one of my biggest kind of leaps that I made, and Kira's looking at me because she's like, thank you so much for doing this, Mom. It was the year before I was supposed to go up for tenure. It was a big deal. And I gave all of that up and wrote a long proposal to our VPAA to give up tenure to go clinical. And clinical meant I could be fully remote.
Okay.
So that was a little, my boss, shout out to Terry. I don't think you're ever going to watch this. I hope you don't either based on what I just gave on answer number 5. But if you do, I hope you're laughing about it.
Amazing.
Love my boss, Terry. He's like been the best boss I've ever had. He was like, are you sure you want to do this? Because he is a little old school in his sense. He was, brought up in the system where tenure is everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, like I don't care. I don't need job security because I do my job well. Okay. I mean, and I don't like...
Is tenure basically just a financial way to incentivize people to stay there longer?
It is. It's also just like I think the academy is playing into the fact that most people that are professors are achievement oriented.
Okay.
So like, let's give you something else to achieve.
Yeah.
Because if
we
like don't,
it's a little carrot out there for them
and
to go chase.
they give you a promotion. Yes. So I gave up a 10K promotion and job security to go clinical to be fully remote.
Okay.
And I also gave up. I was a coordinator for our Masters of Coaching degree. And since I wasn't tenure, I couldn't. So I also gave up $6,000 there.
Gotcha.
So I gave up. I mean, I forfeited a good chunk of change.
Financial opportunity,
say,
for sure.
Which was me saying, I choose myself. I choose my mental health.
Yeah.
And so I did. I don't want to make it seem like, oh, you've just been like living like, super plush. It was like I made a decision where I was like, I'm going to give up money that's going to make me, and here I am in a sprinter. I'm like, well, maybe I should have gone the Ford Transit route or like ProMaster route. But I also just felt like the universe was like, trust me and we will, So that was how I picked up a second gig as a mentor at University of Western States. And then I'm also a adjunct professor at National University in San Diego.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Nice. And you can do that all remotely.
All remote. Yeah, the students call me the modern day Miss Frizzle, where it's like, take my class on the road. They're like, where are we at this week?
That's
and I'm
amazing.
Like, we got the beaches this week.
And again, maybe it's this, and again, in amongst these 10 questions that I ask everybody, I think this is my most favorite. And now I've done 40 some odd episodes of the show, like learning all the different ways people make money while living their life on the road. And the creativity in like turning jobs that were stationary into nomadic jobs, and obviously the advent of Starlink has helped everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you can't do your job without Starlink.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But like having that ability that now that's here opens so many doors to so many people to this opportunity of living on the road.
Yeah.
Like, you can take your job fully remote if you want to.
Absolutely.
You sometimes might have to be a little creative and it's going to be a challenge, but you'll figure it out. And, more often than not, I feel like today, post-pandemic, like employers are like, they're game for it. So I think it's amazing. I mean, you're the first ever full-time professor we've had on the show. So it's pretty badass. Yeah. Question 7. What is your rig? Who built it, and why did you choose it to live a life on the road?
Yeah, so my rig is a 2021 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter 170 4-wheel drive.
She's the junior version.
Yeah. The little sis.
The little sis of Althea.
Yeah, so her name's Big Deb.
I love it.
Which is hilarious how we even came to that name. I was joking about with my friends right before we got it as a cargo van, or I got it as a cargo van.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's paying for this thing. Outsourcing to somebody who doesn't exist. I'm just trying to bring that future life partner in.
I say we all the time.
Well, maybe we. She does nothing.
Well, that's fine. Like, I don't like the word I.
Yeah.
And so I use we. And I use we in a sense that it's me and Althea. Or it's like me and whomever I'm traveling with. I just don't like the use of, people call me out on it all the time. They're like, who are you traveling with? And I'm like,
I also just want to I'm like, no, I'm the one that's paying for this bitch. So I'm like, there is nobody else.
It's just me.
It's just me. That bought this as a cargo, got it built out.
I love it.
So yeah, Big Debbie. At the time, I was climbing a lot, and I was joking. I was like, if I was a professional climber, I would, like, jokingly want to be sponsored by Little Debbie and, like, Skittles and Snickers, just because I think it'd be funny.
The irony is, like, climbers are so, like, clean and, like, strong.
And it's, like a strength-to-weight ratio, and then here I am just, like, housing Little Debbie's. So we were joking about that, and the next week I went and picked up Big Debbie. And I had all these cute names picked out for her, because I was like, I don't know. I wanted it to be some spiritual name.
Yeah.
And then my friends were like, oh, that's Big Debbie. And they just kept calling her that. And I was like, I'm not calling my fucking band Big Debbie.
That's
and then
awesome.
It was like, it just stuck. And now my motorcycle is Little Debbie now. So it's a cute.
We'll show pictures, obviously, of both, which is great. But.
Yeah.
So 2021, did you buy it used? Did you buy it new?
I bought it new. And that was during the time where they're having issues with the chips.
Okay. So I bought a 2022 new.
Yeah.
Did you buy it direct from Mercedes? Did you buy this off the lot?
I bought it off the lot.
Holy fuck.
Did you do that with this?
No, I had it built.
Well, so actually not off the lot. When I called Alan Bailey, what up, Alan, out of Knoxville, Tennessee, I called them.
Okay, different Alan. I have a different Alan, but I have an Alan.
From Mercedes dealership? From Mercedes. You know they probably just hire a bunch of Allens.
No. Is it Alan? No, I'm gonna be like embarrassed if I get this wrong. He's the biggest Sprinter dealership in the U.S., and he's in Birmingham, Alabama.
Really? Okay, because I remember calling Birmingham. They didn't have any, and I called Knoxville next.
They didn't have them either.
So when
I ordered it from Mercedes.
So when I called Alan and I was like, listen, I'm looking for this. And he goes, I just got 4 build sheets.
Shoot. Okay, yeah.
So he had the sheet. So
so he got you a build sheet.
She was in an incubator. You know, this was an embryo in a petri dish, you know, is kind of what so there was a sheet. He was like, I'll send you all 4. Tell me which one you want. I was like, I want the 170 4-wheel drive, blah, blah. I was able to pick the color.
Yep.
Make the changes, the add and delete and stuff.
Yep.
So that was in summer of 21.
Okay.
I put the down payment on. Oh, this is such a great story. I haven't shared this with many people. In September, you heard it here first.
Oh.
I was supposed to pick the van up.
I have the same story.
Yeah.
They delayed you.
So, yeah, okay, in September, I was going to move in with my friends for just like a month in between moving out of my townhouse, moving with my friends.
Wait, this is September of 2021?
Of 21.
Holy shit, our stories are so exact.
Okay, so they called me, and Alan called. I was sitting on like my last piece of furniture that I owned, because I was selling everything I owned. And it's because I was going all in.
Yeah.
He calls, he goes, I got some good news and bad news. And I was like, this man is about to tell me that I don't have a van, because I'd been hearing horror stories of vans not getting built.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay, the bad news, Kira's like, I hate this story so much that I'm going to leave. Because she was like, I know how stressed my mom was.
That's awesome.
The bad news was that the van was delayed.
Okay, yeah.
So he was like, it's not going to be till November, December now. And I was like, okay, I can live with that. I was like, what's the good news? He's like, well, the good news is that across the board, like hundreds of vans their builds are getting canceled.
Getting deleted, yeah.
And he was like, yours is one of 13, I think, or I forget. It was like this astounding number that is still going to get made. And I was like, Alan, you have no idea. I'm cast for this television show. I'm literally sitting on a couch. I know nothing else.
That's
nothing
hilarious.
else. And I'm about to, and I was like, so I called my friends. I was like, is it cool if I live with you for 6 months instead of 1?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a stressful time.
And the timeline is so eerie. I had the exact same thing. So living in Seattle, was getting into the van, like spent most of it took me a year to get the rig. Mm-hmm. Like I think we ordered it August of 2020, and then it was supposed to be delivered in November of 2021. Yeah. And so September, I was out of my lease in Seattle in September, going to Denver, to have it built. I remember. Legitimately, the week of September, last week of September, Mercedes called me and they're like, "You're delayed 6 months."
They probably called us on the same day.
I swear to God, it was it must have been a mass thing in the company. But this rig was the 170 extended 4x4, which they were they told me they don't make 10,000 of these. They're just so hard to come by. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, yours is going to go through no matter what, because they're going to make it.
Yeah. Okay.
And so he had the build sheet, and and then I was like, well, fuck, now where am I going to live? And so that spurred on.
Do you remember where it was built? Which I think it was out of South Carolina.
Yeah, it's always in South Carolina. It's either Germany or South Carolina. Okay. Those are the two options.
So I feel like our vans might have been created
at the same time
by the same dad and mom.
It's so crazy for sure.
Yeah, we're actually related. Is what we find out on
the
this show.
rigs are related.
We find out on this show that our long lost.
We should look at the serial numbers and see.
Actually,
that would be hilarious.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be so great.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's like when people go to fertility doctors and they realize later that they had their brother and sister. They're like, I had 47 brothers and sisters. It's we're actually finding one of them today.
That's hilarious. Yeah, no, I had the exact same story, which is crazy. It was one of those moments oh fuck, and then didn't get it until April. They didn't deliver mine until April.
So yours was April 22. Because I got mine December.
I didn't get my anniversary is May 1st, 2022.
Okay, because it was December 16th, 2022.
I mean, that was way faster than you got. I got mine. That's awesome.
Well, I don't know. Did they delay you because of the chip?
They just delayed me.
Okay, because they gave me the option. They were like, we can continue to delay you, or you can take the van without the chip in it. There was like, it was the Hermes communication system or something. Yeah. I said, give me my baby. Because I got a TV show I got to be on to do the conversion. And I was like, and I'll just retroactively fit it. Nice. So we got that taken care of. Nice. So maybe that's why I got it.
That could have been. Like, they didn't give me a reason. So I'm assuming it was just company-wide.
I was like, Alan, I have a TV show and I'm sitting on the last piece of furniture. I was like, you've got to work with me here. You got to come through. So I think I kind of pushed. Gotcha. And I did have to sign a bunch of things saying I agree that the Hermes communication model isn't in this.
I was just like, he was like, hey, this is what's going on. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. So
this is bringing back so many stressful memories.
I love it. That's hilarious. Question number 7. Or no, we just answered question number 7.
8.
Question number 8. What is your best bathroom, number 1 or number 2 story from Life on the Road? First of all, is there a toilet in the rig?
There is a toilet. It's a $40 one though. It's like it's not a compost.
Is it a little cassette?
No, it's like a literal, you can buy $40 on Amazon. It's literally, it's like a wag bag situation. Yeah. But honestly, like, I just pee in Nalgene bottles. Okay. It's like the most, because by the time I take the cushion off and then take the thing off, it's the middle of the night. Yeah. It's dark. Yeah. I'm like, I'm just going to pee in an Nalgene bottle and toss that later. Yeah. I don't really have a good...
Okay, have we kicked the Nalgene bottle over?
There has been pee on my floor, and
I love it.
I have not knocked over a full one, though. Okay. I have knocked over one. It was like minimal.
I always tell, like, you're not a real van lifer.
You're really not. That has happened. Yeah, I feel like, honestly, it's Kira that has the best stories.
Best
like,
bathroom stories.
Yeah, I also had, like, there was another dog in my rig that shit on my bed. So... I was like, oh my God.
Shout out to all the puppy dogs in van life.
Yeah, like, to be fair, amazing. She was sick. She was not feeling well. Okay. And like, and Kira, that was the same with her. There was a time that I think she just got into something when we were in the wild, and she was just throwing up uncontrollably everywhere. No. And when the bed is dirty, the kitchen also gets, it's like everything
in the van gets dirty.
So really, it's not me, it's her. You need to come up, we need to mic her up and be like, what was your experience?
What was your experience with your best bathroom story?
Your best bathroom story. Yeah, honestly, dogs take the cake when it comes to...
It's so funny. You're the first person to reference their dog in this question, which I actually kind of love.
Yeah. Well, but
I mean, I love the fact that, like, shedding light on, and we've never really talked about it on this show with, like, there's so many dog owners in van life with, like, when your dog is sick or has issues in your rig, it's a lot.
Well, another thing with dogs as well that's really stressful. So something else to think about, people, if you're watching this and you have an animal, is to think about, like, emergency vets. So in Salida, there's no emergency vets here. Yeah. Thankfully, I have her already situated in Alamosa at a vet. Okay. So if something happens to her, I have to drive an hour and a half south. Another thing I want to very shamelessly plug, if you have an animal, a dog specifically, they have a rattlesnake vaccine out there. Yeah. She has been bitten by a rattlesnake, and she survives to tell about it.
That's insane.
Because the week before she got bit, I updated her rattlesnake vaccine, and we think that's why she survived. So, and the vaccine in Alamosa, it was only, at the time, it was $16. I think it's gone up. But the anti-venom is $600 a vial.
There you go.
And depending on how big your dog is, you might need a couple. So
an amazing piece of advice. I love that.
Just so you know.
Yeah, really. Question number 9. What has been the happiest moments? What has been the hardest moments of living your life on the road?
Oh, gosh. I'll start with the hardest moments. And to be quite honest with you, it was more recently because I went through some medical stuff. Yeah. And when you're solo in the van... This also coincides. So when I was in Baja for 3 months, I was traveling around with a lot of couples, and I loved my experience down there. But it makes you painfully aware of being single and having to do everything yourself. Yeah. Like,
who was your crew in Baja, out of curiosity?
Hannah and Chris, O'Connell, Pat and Madison. Okay. I don't know if any of these are ringing bells. Callie and Zach, love all of you. Miss you so much.
I love it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so it was a lot of different couples that were down there. and I loved hanging out with them, but it does make you very aware. Like, I'm the one driving all the hours. Mm-hmm. I can't be the passenger princess. Mm-hmm. Then when we get there, I got to set everything up, and then I got to cook dinner for myself. Yep. When usually in a couple, it's like one person's driving, the other person cooks, and you get there.
You share all the stuff.
I was like, can I be like an adopted child of like one of the couples every time? I was just really, really tired. So, I wanted to paint that picture of, van life when you are solo doing it, because there's just so much that you're having to, set up and tear down, and what takes them 30 minutes takes you 45 to an hour.
It's a lot. Like, when you have to, decide where you're going to travel to, you're making all the decisions at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And, on top of work, on top of like doing all the medial chores in the van, trash, water, food.
Yes.
All of those things. And we, again, this is why I talk about, is van life hard? Van life is very hard. And this is why it's very hard.
Well, and I've had times where I've been coupled up on the road where it's nice when you can go grocery shopping. It's like, okay, I'm going to go this half of Walmart, you go that half.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, it was like the first time I went in Walmart after this, like, I wouldn't even call it a breakup, but it was like, we just went our separate ways, like, as far as, like, traveling.
Yeah.
And I, like, started crying in the fruit section because I was like, I gotta go over this entire grocery store and get all the food. I'm tired. I was like, it's just so nice. It's like those things that I think when you're a couple on the road, you're not really thinking, like, when you're solo. So when I'm traveling with just solo people, we all get it. So it's like, hey, I'm going to go take my trash. Can I take it for you?
Yeah.
Not saying couples aren't helpful at all. I'm usually like, hey, you're going to go take your trash. Will you take mine, please? So it was a lovely experience. But I think one of the harder things is that I went through a lot of medical stuff I'm still kind of in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And thankfully I'm in Colorado. I know a lot of people here. I've been able to stay in people's homes. But you're just like, I don't have a house to go back and heal. Mm-hmm. I don't know what these biopsy results are going to come back as. And I even put on my Instagram, I was like, hey, I had a doctor's appointment today. There is a likelihood that I might not be able to do van life anymore. Yeah. Now I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I don't own any furniture. I might have to, whatever these biopsy results come back as, I might have to be going through chemo and radiation and finding a house and buying furniture, and hopefully my mom will fly out and help me. Like, it's stuff that I think that has been the hardest. I was really questioning my decision in Big Deb when all that was going on. But also, like, the happiest I think I've been, I just go back to Bend, Oregon last fall. We had so much fun as a crew of people.
Bend's a vortex.
Just going to concerts on a Thursday night, glitter on your face. I don't know. Some of the happiest moments have been 2 a.m. DJ Aaron.
Yeah.
On the turnstile.
Yeah.
And
shout out DJ Aaron. Yeah. Always killing it.
Yeah. And you're just like feeling the music, like being able to reconnect with yourself through music, through laughter, through fun, through, I don't know. I think there's been...
we haven't even talked about you as a musician, at all. Yeah. Which we're going to I'm going to get some clips from John, and we're going to pull some clips. We'll throw some clips of you at Descend.
I am a musician,
Shout out on the Woodstock on Wheels stage at Descend on Bend.
That was
actually
fun.
I think that might have been where we met.
We did, because somebody was like, hey, there's another rig that's kind of like yours. And I looked, I was like, that rig is, kind of like mine, but it's on steroids. I was like, Big Debbie,
it's not so big next to Out Theory.
Cool, but this rig's got everything. And then you took me through it, and I was like, okay.
That's funny.
Yeah, yours is like more, like, kind of has more of a techie vibe to it.
It definitely does.
Yeah, mine's more of like of a homey, like, wood feel to it.
Yeah, I always, like, after seeing all the wood builds throughout, like, every van I saw, I was like, I'm going to be anti the wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Absolutely.
Speaking of another van.
Another sprinter, what up?
Okay, well, last question. Actually, no, we didn't answer. Well, we kind of answered your happiest.
Well, the happiest moments, that's the thing to me, is they've been these glimmers. They haven't been, like, I wouldn't
say... There's no, like, grand, I'm the happiest I've ever been moment.
No, it's been these, like
little gems.
Yeah, just absolute, like, moments where I'm like, God, I just love you, and I love this, and I love
this moment.
Yeah, and I just have like, I feel like there's a Rolodex going through my head of like, I mean, even now it's like such a beautiful moment. Like I'll go into town and Drew's a bartender at it, and it's like that's such a happy moment to just be sitting at a bar while he's working and we're not even talking. It's just like I love the sense of community.
I was gonna say it goes back to the community at the end of the day. Like it goes back to the people within this community. They're so genuine. You know, you build such wonderful bonds with the friends within Nomads and that are Nomads. And yeah, I have the same thing. It's like it's a Rolodex of moments.
You know,
that like is really, really wonderful to like think back on.
Now that I'm like marinating a little bit more. There was this one extremely I'll say profound.
Okay.
Moment. And Hannah and Chris, you know exactly what I'm about to say. We were in Baja. Their truck broke down in Baja. And so we ended up staying an extra month down there.
Okay.
And we kind of all started knowing like something's going on. The universe is wanting us to stay here. And we met this shaman.
Okay.
And the shaman came to Tecolote and we had our 5-MeO experience. And it was the most beautiful thing I've ever done.
That's cool.
It has completely... It took me back to the first molecule of my existence.
Wow.
And thrust me right back into this world and reconnected me with hope and joy.
Love that.
And so I would say that like and I had for a year up to that point, I know the benefit of MDMA and clinical trials and stuff like that. And, you know, myself having like a psychology degree. And had been, I wouldn't say seeking it out, but I had just been letting the universe know that I was ready for it for myself from a mental health standpoint.
Okay.
And we met this shaman and came out to Tecolote, this beautiful, like literally on the beach.
Yeah.
And we had this experience. And that for me was like, it was almost like my life pre-5-MeO and post-5-MeO.
Interesting.
So I would say it was like, and so for anybody that's ever wanting to do 5-MeO, it's this, comes from a toad that's in the Sonora Desert.
Yep.
If you eat it, it'll kill you. But if you smoke it, it'll almost kill you.
I've done a lot of reading on it. Like I know of it, but I've never.
It is. If you ever do it, I would do it in a sacred space with a shaman.
Yeah.
Another thing I would also say.
It's a very short moment.
It is. So it lasts about 30 to 45 minutes total. But I was unconscious for about, I think my friends that were watching me do it, they said for like 2 to 3 minutes.
Wow.
So literally like when you inhale, I just remember like going into this black hole. I don't remember anything. They told me I was moving around a lot. I don't remember that. But I do remember I was originally laying down. When I came back to this world, I was on all fours and I was looking at the shaman and I was like, oh my God. And they thought I was trying to make out with him because from the angle they had behind me, I was like, and I just took his face and I brought it really close to me and I was like, you were so beautiful.
Yeah.
I was like, thank you so much. Because the shaman knew I was struggling. Like you have to, when you inhale, there was a part of me that was like, we don't want to fully commit. We're nervous. And I felt him. He literally was like, no, like he was like pushing it into me. He was like, no, you got to keep going. You got to keep going. If you don't, you're going to get caught in the middle world. And that's not fun.
Okay.
So I was like, okay. And so I really was so grateful to him because he was like, no. You got to do the medicine. You got to keep going. And then when he did, it truly just like shot. I don't even know I was unconscious. I have no clue what happened. But when I came back to, after about 3 minutes, it was pure bliss, but not, it's so funny because to be quite honest with you, when I did 5-MeO, it's like, oh, do drugs, you're going to get addicted. It's like, actually after 5-MeO, it's like I'm so much aware of how sacred my body is. It's like what I eat. Yeah. It's like, I want to protect what I consume social media wise, food wise, friends, nature. I think that's why I've pivoted to wanting to be by myself. I'm just so it was like I did this 5-MeO experience and, you know, I've been sober off alcohol for going on a year and some change now.
Okay.
But after that, I was like, I don't want, like, even, you know, people will be at things and they're like, oh, you want some shrooms? You want this? And I'm like, no, I don't actually think I want that right now. You know, maybe at another setting. Yeah. So I would say, I wouldn't say I guess I would say my habit, but my most profound.
Yeah, that was a profound moment in your van
And if it wasn't for Big Deb, if it wasn't for making the commitment to go to Baja, if it wasn't for just us succumbing to the universe when all these horrible things were happening that forced us to stay there, and then we realized, I think the universe is trying to be like, hey, I have an opportunity for you. You should do this.
Yeah. I love that. That's amazing. Our last question 10, define #vanlife in your own words. And provide a piece of advice for somebody wanting to live a life on the road.
I think #vanlife is interesting because what the advice that I would provide
Let's start there. We'll come back.
Yeah, I think I want to, because what is fueling you to do van life? Is it you've been on social media, you see the van life, and so you want are you actually truly at the core of yourself pulled to do van life?
Yeah.
Or is it just like a #van life? It's something cool to do. It's the next phase of life.
You see the pretty things.
Yeah. So, if it's that external, what we'd call extrinsically motivated, but externally motivated by like the #van life, then dig a little bit deeper into why. Like why are you doing that? Is it to become a part of the crowd, for self-preservation, whatever it might be? Because I can truly say that wasn't it for me. Like I didn't start seeing the van life, #van life, until after I was really like wanting to do it.
Yeah.
When I was seeking it out.
Yeah. I was very similar.
Yeah. So like to me, I have a love-hate relationship with #van life because I think that there's this like socially constructed norm around it of, #van life. That like, yes, I'm a part of that hashtag in a way.
Of course you are.
I just wish that I think people are caught up in the algorithm. People are caught up in, and so are you actually in the driver's seat of your life?
Yeah.
Or, is social media.
Are you making a conscious choice to do this?
Yeah. So to me, #van life. Choice. I'm not going to say I haven't put #van life on my posts.
We all use #van life.
Like I'm going to tap into the community. I don't absolutely hate it, but I do think that as a community we should dive deeper in. A documentary that I would assume have probably seen is The Social Dilemma.
Yeah.
And so if you haven't, I would say this: if you think that you're wanting to get into van life because you're like, the pretty lights, before you make a decision, go watch The Social Dilemma first on Netflix and then decide.
Well, and again, too, like we talk about it all the time. I'm a broken record with this question, but I wrote the question specifically for like this conversation is like, this is not our life. Yeah. Like #van life and what you see on Instagram and all the pretty pictures, they're real. We take them. I'm a professional photographer. I strive to take those photos, but that's not our real life. Yeah. That's not our day-to-day. That's not how we live on a weekly, monthly, daily, yearly basis. But that was weird.
Does that mean it stopped?
It just said battery low.
Okay.
Good thing we're on the last question. That was really funny. I would not have known that if the screen had not been there.
See, now you know.
I love that.
Here, come here.
So yeah, no, like that is what gets shown, but that's not our real life.
Exactly.
And I'm hoping, and I express this so much on this show, is that like if you're curious about van life, you'll be far more beneficial to find somebody you relate to on the show, reach out to them on Instagram and ask questions.
Oh, yeah.
Like just, genuinely ask questions about like what their real life is all about.
Well, and what's not captured on social media is the internal dialogue you have with yourself, which is like, okay, it's 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And I need to find a place to park.
Yep.
But I don't want to go to BLM because I don't know how those roads are, and I don't want to get caught in the middle of the night.
Yep.
And be by myself. And then what if I get stuck? Okay, let me see if there's a Walmart.
What you just said is a internal, sometimes external thought that every single person in van life has had.
Yeah.
Every single person.
Yeah.
I love that she's chasing flies. Legitimately every person.
Nobody's making a reel about that shit.
No.
And maybe this is content creation for somebody.
I mean, they are, but they're doing it in such a curated way, so it looks pretty on stories and reels.
They're doing it in a curated way where it's not like, I'm sitting here where I'm like, okay, and it's 7 o'clock at night. My dog hasn't eaten. She also hasn't taken a shit or gone pee. I haven't taken a shit or gone pee. I also need to eat. What is in my fridge? Should I park at a Walmart anyways? Because then I can go shopping. Actually, you know what? Do I have enough time? I'm also in a place I know nothing about, and I don't know where the closest McDonald's is. Yep. And that's also, I shouldn't be eating that right now, but like, I'm tired and I don't have a partner to make me dinner. Like, I also forgot to put the sheets on my bed last night because I hate making my bed and half my clothes. This is the stuff that is not.
What you just ranted through is true van life. That is, and
how
that
much
happens,
water is in my tank?
And that happens probably once a week, sometimes more.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
It's one of those things that like, it's that anxiety and that like the I don't knows that you have to answer and think about so often.
Yep.
Far more often than if you live in a stationary city.
Well, I will say this, and shout out to Amber at Aimless Amber on Instagram. Now living in a house here in Colorado, in Salida.
Yeah.
I remember her saying this. She goes, and she was on the road for I think 4 years,
okay.
and she had said, when I moved into the house, I didn't realize how much my nervous system needed a break.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yep.
You just nailed what I was feeling on the head, but I didn't know how to articulate it because your nervous system is constantly on a swivel.
Yeah.
Which is like, I mean, even staying on BLM land, it's like, I feel comfortable here, so I have been sleeping better at night.
Yeah.
But when you're sleeping at a Walmart, you're not actually getting deep sleep because you're like, is somebody going to knock on my door? Is there going to be a weird person that decides to park next to me?
Yeah.
Thankfully, I have a dog, and she kind of looks a little aggressive. She doesn't really bark that much, but if somebody knocks, she will.
Oh,
like,
yeah, for sure.
You just are constantly, you're like, where's my taser? Like, yes. I'll be like, fuck, I left the taser in the thing. I should have put it on my bed. Like, you're just, these thoughts are constantly going, and it's not, that's where I actually was like, I gotta meditate more.
Yeah.
Because I'm exhausted.
Yeah. Oh, true. Mentally, like, it's taxing on you. Like, van life is truly taxing on you. So, what's the piece of advice you'd give somebody wanting to live a life on the road then?
I think if you want, my piece of advice would be this. If you do have an inkling toward it, to do it. Yeah. And I remember my brother told me once, he was like, you need to live by yourself at some point before you like get married or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, because you're going to learn, I can't tell you what you're going to learn about yourself, but you will learn.
You'll find something.
You'll learn.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel like van life has been. It's like, just jump in. We can't tell you what you're going to learn about yourself. The stuff that we've said here that I've learned that other people have shared. And that's your journey.
Yeah.
So I think if you have an itching towards it, just like start plugging away.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's the most common piece of advice given on the show, but I think it's the most valid, is you just have to find a way to take the first step. You have to find a way to start. Yeah. And then once you do, you're going to be put on this path of self-discovery that's going to be pretty amazing. And it's unique to everybody on the road. Yeah. And again, it's why I love sitting down and telling these stories and telling your story and letting people hear this, because everybody's story is unique to themselves. Yeah. Everybody's journey on the road is very, very different. And I'm so glad that we got to have this conversation.
Well, I will say one other thing, and this is a Ram Dass quote.
I love it.
That everybody has neuroses. And it's not about getting rid of the neuroses.
Yeah.
I think that's what we think. We're like, I'm going to go to therapy. I'm going to get rid of my neuroses. But Ram Dass says it's not about getting rid of the neuroses. It's about creating more space for them to dance and to breathe.
I love that.
And I feel like getting into van life, I have learned to create more space within myself.
Yeah.
Because the community has taught me how to create more space just amongst ourselves. Yeah. And to create space for all different walks of life and people. And so that seeps into the fabric of my being, and I start treating myself that way.
Sure.
And so now I have the same neuroses.
Yeah,
you know,
and but people embrace them. People love them for you. Yeah. Like for who you truly are.
And they're not as loud anymore. Like my type A achievement oriented self, like she's still in there and we love her. And when she does come knocking, I'll be like, hey, what's going on? Like, let's chat.
Yeah.
I've created enough space for them to be able to live and breathe. Where before I was so constricted and narrow-minded and fixed-minded on things that I didn't even realize I was fixed-minded on, and that they were suffocating.
Yeah.
And now that I've just...
Wait, it might have been just this.
Is it just that?
Oh, yeah.
Is it?
Wait, we're still good.
The battery is still great, everybody.
No, we just can't see each other.
We just don't need to see ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't need to be vain anymore.
No, we're still recording.
Okay, good.
I love it.
Yeah, so I just want to leave with that of like, if this path of self-discovery, so Ram Dass says that, he's like, it's never about getting rid of the neuroses. So stop shaming yourself for having whatever those neuroses might be. Maybe you're jealous or insecure.
Yeah.
Just finding the wisdom in them and providing enough space for them to be able to breathe and move. And then he also says that we're all just walking each other home.
No, I love that. Yeah. And honestly, and then putting that in context to the nomadic community is, you can come out here and just be yourself, and the people of this community will accept you and love you. Like, you'll find your tribe, you'll find the people that you love, you'll find the community that loves you for you being you.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really great piece of advice. So, no, I love that. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, of course.
This has been so fun.
This has been fun.
I've loved our conversation. We are going to turn this camera off and have way more conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a million things I want to ask you and talk to you about. So, we're going to go and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Yeah. And we will see you guys on the next episode. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
So I don't know. It's been super fun. Like, I'm having fun with it. I've told myself, like, this whole time, like, as long as I'm having fun with it and enjoying the process of this, and like, I'll do this for as long as I can.
To me, I don't want to say makes it worth it, but like, you're like, okay, cool. Like, it gives you a little bit of motivation.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And, you know, I never started this project to make money. Like, this was never a money-making endeavor. You tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready to go.
Okay. We've been filming for like 15 minutes.
Have we? Okay, cool.
I always film like super fun B-roll and outtakes. Thank you.
Yeah, that was so great.
That was awesome. I love it.
That was nice. It's kind of just funny hearing... Well, because I purposefully did not listen to any of
the shows?
Yeah, because I was like, I just want to like candid go in. And me being a qualitative researcher, I always love it when like the people I'm interviewing are just like give you on the spot answers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's cool to be able to think, to just relive. I'm like, wow, I've done a lot of living in the past year and a half of this. But it's been funny. I feel like I have lived 10 different lives in the past year and a half, it feels like. Because you're constantly going to a new place and there's a new community and you...
I'm trying to think, like, you must have introduced yourself as Simone.
I think when I met you, it was...
Like right
around. It was like, if I didn't, I
was the new kid my entire life. So I've lived in 18 different states. 1, we're going to have a conversation about religion. 2, we're going to talk about sports.
Were you raised really religious?
No. Well, no.
Oh my gosh. Good for you. You walking away from church and
you're going to burn in hell.
Yeah. That's a bad mom move. I'm
going to let my child burn in hell.
Yeah.
I get it. That's hilarious. By the way, I'm going to totally B-roll that burn in hell comment.
Oh, please do. And I'll send it to my mother.